All right, good afternoon. My name is Leo Delgado, and we're on another episode of 2BeHeard podcast. Today's guests are about the resources. They want to go ahead and give information. I'm going to go ahead and allow them to introduce themselves and talk about what they want to make a difference with as far as the resources. Please.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Gregory Dash. I'm an attorney here in Maryland. Well, attorney in Maryland. I've been an attorney since 2013. Started Dash Law Firm since 2014. And one of the main areas of law that we work in is estate planning and estate administration. So that's what we're here to speak about today.
That's phenomenal. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rebekah Opher. I am a student at the University of Baltimore, and I am Mr. Dash's legal assistant.
Thank you for the introduction. Well, a little bit about your organization, what you guys do, and the resources that you guys potentially want to offer the folks out here as far as an education too.
So you mentioned education, so that's one thing. We are very passionate about estates, all things estates, estate planning, estate administration. And so we actually offer free seminars in the communities throughout the state to discuss estate planning because it's an area of law that is very much neglected in many communities. And a lot of communities, people are losing property and families are getting broken up because of not properly planning for succession or even on incapacity as well.
Prioritizing.
That's
making
correct.
sure that they're making the right moves when it comes to documentation and presenting this stuff.
That's right.
Making sure that they're educated on the process of ownership of assets.
That's right, and what to do with those assets. Because unfortunately, we're going to pass away.
Yeah.
But we also talk, it's not just about passing away, it's about incapacity planning as well. But unfortunately, we are going to pass away. But the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
Yeah.
So that's why we try to educate people so we can follow the Proverbs.
Okay, all right. And Rebekah, did you want to kind of chime in on that as well?
Yes, one of the things we found is that a lot of people are very uncomfortable with this subject. And so by putting it into an educational sphere, we're then able to put it into the context of this is something you need to know. This is some information that will benefit you and your family in a way that takes the emotion out of it. So it's not fearing, it's not bringing fear into the conversation of, oh, I'm afraid this is going to happen, so we have to talk about it. It's more like this is regular stuff, let's talk about it. This is common knowledge.
Okay, that's awesome. And that's the thing about it. I mean, one of the things that I've learned myself, right? I'm a homeowner and buying a car, right? I had to learn about that, but I learned about it later in life. It wasn't one of those things where high schools, middle schools didn't really teach about that stuff. Interest in principle and all other stuff. We didn't know that we would be dealing with these type of things when we were buying a house or buying a car or buying a property or trying to have your own business. And it's so important to protect that asset. What does one have to do? I mean, give us a little background on how important that is and why it's important to you to get that message.
Okay, I mean, it's important because, like I stated earlier, when people don't get their estate plan, a lot of times we lose property, we lose. So, as I mentioned, this is about incapacity. So people think that this is all about dying, but when if somebody should become incapacitated, they still need these financial transactions to take place, and so we put you need to have these documents in place so that these assets aren't lost. Also, your health care is important. Should you become incapacitated as well, somebody needs to make a decision about, or you up front can make decisions about what should happen should you become incapacitated.
Definitely. And the one conversation I've had over the years when it comes to this subject is the gap in the generational wealth and how that has affected so many communities, some communities more than others. And it's really the miseducation of it. And now, I know we talked offline about some of the services that you offer that are free. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, so we stated earlier, we do have free seminars. We go out throughout the community and speak to anybody, any setting. We've been at churches, we've been at libraries, we've been at people's houses. Actually, we've done them on Zoom, and it's all free. We just want to make sure everybody is educated because some people say that ignorance is very expensive. So we want to make sure people are educated so they don't have to fall into that category of becoming or having to deal with ignorance, which can lead to loss. Right.
Now, what really got you into it, Mr. Dash? Why is it important to you? And I guess to the audience, why do you care?
I care because I've seen so many people. First, so I started off doing criminal law and family law, and I've dealt with some people that had issues with criminal law, which unfortunately it affects some communities more than others. Also, family law does as well. But I've seen family members come to blows. I mean, like literally come to blows when it comes to inheritance.
Yeah.
And so I've also seen where families have lost property that have been in the family for numbers of generations. And then for the reason of improperly planning, that has caused us to lose a lot of property, which I'm sure those ancestors are really upset about the fact that this is no longer in the family. And it could have been easily avoided if the education was there. So that's why we provide this knowledge so that we can avoid that, and we can continue to pass along our legacies, and we can continue to grow and close this wealth gap, because there's communities out here that are very far behind because of the situations that have occurred in the past in this country, and so a lot of us are trying to play catch up, and by properly planning your estate, this can help with that situation.
No, absolutely. I mean, we see it, on TV with NBA players and NFL players that have made millions and millions of dollars throughout their career. But once they've retired, they go into bankruptcy, they lose everything. And it was really the miseducation of not being properly educated on handling finances and assets because they've got so much money in front of them. For instance, some years ago, I ran into Delonte West, an NBA player who lifetime made $68+ million. But unfortunately, he's on the streets now with no support, no help. That's what potentially that could happen to somebody. If it can happen to somebody of that type of caliber, right? Why would it happen to an average Joe that doesn't know how to handle the paperwork of making sure that they protect their assets, their business, whatever they may want to protect legally on paper? I mean, that's huge.
Right, exactly. And so there are ways to properly plan for situations such as that. I think Allen Iverson had a trust set up for him while he was playing
I think it
basketball.
was a Reebok deal that he had where they kind of held a certain amount of money and then they ended up passing it on to him after.
I think he's still getting paid from that.
Yep.
There are ways that we can put documents in place in order to prevent some of that. Also, because somebody told me that NFL stands for not for long, so you're not gonna be able to make this money forever. So we gotta properly plan for when that change happens in our lives.
Rebekah, now, you've seen that as well. You're kind of working side by side with Mr. Dash. What have you learned as far as how all this kind of helps out when it comes to documentation for folks and making sure they protect their assets?
Well, one of the things that I really appreciate is being on the incoming line when the clients and prospective clients first call in, because they have questions, they're uncertain about things, or they have had stories of family members that have undergone things like, you know what, I don't want this to happen to me. What do I need to do? Or someone told me to get this done and I've been delaying on getting it done, but I'm gonna get it done. I tell them it's three things. One, it's social justice, that we are empowering our communities to be more cognizant of the legal barriers that are in place, that ignorance is not bliss, because if you don't know what's going on, you're going to suffer. And it's not just you that's going to suffer, it's your family that's going to suffer. Secondly, it's restorative justice, in that we are reclaiming and keeping properties within our families, because for so many generations between redlining and other discriminatory practices that happen all around this country, that we have to make up the last 30, 40 years to educate our own families, but also educate the people in our neighborhoods who may not have access to this. And then the third thing is, I say, it's an act of love for your family. That while your family is grieving, it would be an act of love to have everything already prepared, where they don't have to worry about making decisions in grief, because we all know how emotions distort our thinking.
Absolutely. We've seen it, Rebekah, where folks, they have a grandparent or a parent that passes away, and there's assets that need to be separated throughout maybe 4 or 5 siblings, and it gets ugly. It tears families apart. I know you mentioned that earlier. It tears families apart, all because there was not a will that was signed out. There was not documentation saying that this person gets a percentage of this or that. And it gets ugly, and it gets really sad, because at the end of the day, the big thing is you lost a family member.
That's right.
And you forgot about losing that family member when you're sitting there thinking, well, what am I gonna get out of this?
Exactly. So that's why we had one message we wanted to give to the heirs. You know, being an heir, you should realize the fact that receiving something, an inheritance, is a bonus. You know, it's not something that you should expect, but if you get something, you should be grateful. If you don't, you should be grateful. If you get a penny or if you get $1 million, you should be grateful, because somebody has said, you know, I'm going to leave something aside for you when I pass away.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure the heirs understand, you know, because oftentimes a lot of heirs think, you know, somebody loved this person more than that person, or they treated me differently, or oftentimes we are treated differently because our loved ones give us what we need. And so some of us might need more than others.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we're loved any differently. They just feel as though, you know, you might need $1,000 versus somebody else might need $5,000.
The thing I've learned from it too is that folks have a hard time accepting that, right? Because they're like, why did, well, so-and-so got a bigger percentage and so-and-so got a house. And it's just kind of like, you know, there is no favoritism to it. It's just, it all comes down to what that person who is leaving this world behind, they've worked for it, they've decided who they want to leave it with. And it's sad that their last dying wish is to say, hey, look, we want to separate this for you guys. This is it. I love you all evenly, but this is what I think I should give to each individual. Now, have you guys handled any cases like that in a year or so, or since you've started?
Some people got something other than what they got.
Yeah, like just in general, like, yeah.
We handle it all the time.
Yeah.
Or we hear about it and we have to deal with it all the time.
Yeah.
So we start off trying to explain to them, you know, that you're an heir.
Yeah.
You're receiving an inheritance. You should be grateful that you're receiving an inheritance. I had one case where a guy, we ended up going to court. Because he felt as though he was done wrong, and then while we got to court, he realized that he had already received over $100,000. And then after that, he was like, all right, I'm all right. And then he called back and said, well, I still should be receiving more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we deal with it a lot.
And so, my question is, does it happen with a lot with insurance policies as well? Does it happen when people have an insurance policy for maybe, we'll say, $150,000, they've got 2 kids, and then they're like, all right, well, this person gets $50,000, that person gets $100,000.
Right. I mean, it could, but the good thing about any of that is when it's written down.
Exactly.
So if it's written down, you can't be mad. You can't be mad at the other person because they didn't write this. They didn't establish this inheritance. The person that's deceased has established that. So again, it's just it's a bonus, and you should be grateful for what you receive.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And so I know you were mentioning some of the free classes. Now, what location specifically do you guys offer these free classes?
We will go anywhere throughout the state of Maryland.
Yeah. Have you guys held some of these seminars so far?
Yes, we have. We recently, we were in the library. We were in the library recently.
Owings Mills Library.
Right.
Oh, nice.
We've been at Randallstown Library, we've been at Towson, and doing on Zoom, and we've had all kinds of organizations, sororities, fraternities, churches, done them for any. In fact, we had private family groups that actually has to do a seminar for their family. We did that too.
That's awesome.
We'll speak to anybody.
Do people have to sign up for it? How do they reach out? How do they contact you guys?
So oftentimes, we just put a message out saying that we're having a seminar, and then we have also done them where they sign up, what they call an RSVP or email.
And so what do they kind of entail, these seminars?
So first, you can come and you might be able to get a free donut, some coffee, but also they entail the main aspects of estate plan. We go over the main aspects of the documents that we prepare for estate plan, and we go over what happens if you don't have this.
And Rebekah, you've been there and you've seen it. Do you feel like it impacts a lot of people that are taking these seminars?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite things is during these seminars, people say, oh, I thought I could just do X, Y, and Z, and that would be fine.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm glad I came here because you can't. And then someone goes, wait a minute, you can't do X, Y, and Z? And that gets the conversation started. And I think a lot of the problems that we have is that we don't talk about certain topics that make us uncomfortable. And in having these seminars, we take the emotion out of it, and this is just education.
Mhm.
And use it or don't use it, it's up to you, you can't say you didn't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And one of the things I think is really important is within these seminars, we show how important it is to be mindful of who you're choosing as your executive, who you're choosing to be in charge of these things, because they have to be of the right sound mind to be able to fulfill your wishes as you've intended. Because there's nothing worse than you write down what you want, and then the person you say, I want you to do this, like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I think it's so important for people to understand. It's kind of like, we see the economy where it is now. Who knows if it's gonna get better or not? But that's why right now is the time to protect your assets, protect your property, protect your business. Now is the time to protect. All right, and the reason why is because now, for those that are staying behind, once we meet our maker, that's where it could really pay great dividends to the family, right? Because now, somebody leaves an insurance policy for $100,000, and this individual was just struggling, they didn't know what to do, and all of a sudden, they get a call or something in the mail saying, somebody's left you $100,000. It's life-changing for people.
That's right.
It's life-changing, and I think that that's the greatest takeaway from what we're trying to accomplish on today's episode, that it is a free resource that you guys are offering to people to educate themselves to protect their assets. A lot of the podcasts that I've done in the past, building on resources like, with police, the community work, this and that. But this is for the people that have gotten past that now. These are for the folks that have survived all that stuff on the side, that have done something for themselves, and that have really valued their future. And the importance of valuing your future is what you're going to leave behind for the future. So that's why it's so important to have you guys share what you guys are doing. I think you guys are doing some phenomenal work. It's great. Any last things you guys want to say before we end today's day?
I mean, one, we just appreciate you allowing us to come and speak today. Estate planning is so very important. I think it's one of the most important areas of law, to be honest. And our slogan, we just want you to get your estate plan, but we want you to get it done today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you guys want to shout out your address, how to contact you guys? If you guys are more than welcome to go ahead and.
Okay, so you can contact the Dash Law Firm by phone or by text at 410-777-9193. You can also email us at gdash@dashlawfirm.com. We're also found on Instagram and Facebook at Dash Law Firm. We look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, we're here to answer your questions. And we want to make sure that you are informed to make the right decisions, because once you knock this off your list, you can then go about the rest of your business. And you don't have to worry about this hanging over your head, oh, I need to get this done. Get it done today, don't procrastinate, and everybody will be better for it.
That's right.
Absolutely. Any last words there, Mr. Dash?
Thank you all for tuning in and get it done. Get it done today.
Absolutely. I want to thank my guests for coming out here today, sharing these resources for folks. Please, it's free information, free resources for you guys to go out here and educate yourselves on how to protect your assets. Again, I want to thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for watching another episode of 2BeHeard about getting these resources and information out to folks out there. Thank you. Thank you guys.